Today's gonna be a fun one. Hi everyone! How are we doing today? My name is Celeste, and here on this channel, we just kind of cover all types of book things, whether it's book reviews, book thoughts, book community, all the jazz. And today, I think we have a fun video in store. So I have the problem where I don't know how to shut the fuck up. So I thought of a fun way to do a book review would be to kind of put it in a book report format where I literally have to make a visual aid, a presentation for you guys, so that I don't ramble for 2 hours. So we're gonna call it book report, because why not? For fun. And today's book report, today's assigned reading was Haunting Adeline. This was my first dark romance read ever. And it was quite a trip, quite a time. So it's Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. Like I said, it's a dark romance. If you have not read the book yet, really look into it before you read it, because it's not like when you hear romance, you're like, ooh, kick my feet, and I'm laying on my stomach on my bed reading and kicking my feet in the air. It's not like that. There is an entire trigger warning page that I think is very important to read. So if you are interested in this book or you want to know more about it, definitely read up on the triggers and figure out if this genre or this type of book is for you. Because Girlie's not playing when she says that these things are in this book. Okay? So let's just get into it. This is my book report. Okay, listen up, class. Welcome to my book report. This is Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. Yes, this is like an actual PowerPoint. I felt like I was doing homework last night, but it was like kind of fun because it's not for a grade. It's so that I can talk shit on the internet. Okay, so this is the summary. This is word for word the summary that is on Goodreads and on the book's back cover. So this is the summary, okay? We have two different POVs. We have the manipulator. It says, I can manipulate the emotions of anyone who lets me. I will make you hurt, make you cry, make you laugh and sigh. But my words don't affect him, especially not when I plead for him to leave. He is always there, watching and waiting, and I can never look away, not when I want him to come closer. And then the other POV is called The Shadow. It says, I didn't mean to fall in love, but now I have. I can't stay away. I'm mesmerized by her smile, by her eyes, and the way she moves. The way she undresses. I'll keep watching and waiting until I make her mine. And once she is, I'll never let her go. Not even when she begs me to. So it doesn't really tell you anything about the story. Like I said, yes, this is the description. But again, if you haven't read the book and you want to know what this is about, so the manipulator is our main female character. She's a writer. That's where the manipulator part comes in. But essentially, she's just living her life. And then one day, the shadow, our love interest, begins stalking her. And then stuff ensues. And they fall in love, I guess. So it's a stalker romance, essentially. But yeah, that's the legit description. I tried to find like a legitimate one and I absolutely could not. So here's our characters. There's really only two that you need to know. First is our female main character, Adeline Riley, I think. So here's some things about her. She's a fantasy author. She lives in her dead grandma's house. She has mommy issues. She, I think, has a fear kink. It's never really, stated, but I'm pretty sure she does. In this book, she really only has one friend. Her name's Daya, and she's kind of like a token character. She's kind of stupid. Randomly, in one of the chapters, she sees her great-grandma's ghost, so apparently she can see apparitions. And, she has cinnamon hair, because that's the only way that the author describes her hair is cinnamon. Up top over here, here we go. up here, this is like fan art of what fans portray her as. This is artwork by, book art by Amai. I hope I said that right, but they're on Instagram. This is who I pictured her as, Lydia from Teen Wolf. That's who I pictured. And over here, just kind of like her energy in the book. So as you can see, she's got a clown mirror because all she does is tomfoolery and clown shit. Again, she is kind of a dumb bitch, and she's like aggressively horny, obviously. This book is like 50% fucking. Actually, bump that up. It's probably like 60, 70% fucking. So, all right, here's our next character. This is Zade Meadows. He is the male love interest. He is the shadow. So here's some things about Zade right off the bat. We learn that he's a hacker, but he's like a cool hacker who still gets laid, even though I can't think of a more like bitchless job than to be a hacker and to like brag about it. You know, I don't know. Something about calling yourself a hacker and being proud of it just kind of gives me a little bit of ick. Maybe not other people, but definitely for me. He's crazy, but he's also kind of a loser. And like I said, like, pick a struggle, sir. There's like a part in the book where he describes his Mustang, and the way that he described it, and I know it's like the author, but this is supposed to be first person, so this is the character. The way he described it sounded like so fucking stupid. Like, he was like, I have so many gadgets in my car and so much illegal technology that I shouldn't have in my black Mustang. And I was like, all right, loser mobile. Like, I don't fucking care. That sounds terrible. Like, I can't think of a more unsexy car. He kills people, but like only bad people who are human traffickers. And he goes by Z, like he's an anonymous guy who goes by Z and is trying to take down the deep state government that participate in child sacrifice and child trafficking, but not in a QAnon way, as stated by the author, not by me. He is a walking contradiction. He is kind of cringe. Actually, he's like aggressively cringe, and I also hate his name. So, those are some things about him. Let's see. So, this is the fan art. This is artworks by Roki, I assume. They are on Instagram. That's where I found this. I'm pretty sure I follow them on Instagram, so I saw this like way before I read it. So this is like how the fans picture him. This is how I pictured him. This is the vampire from Gravity Falls. Because he always has like a black hood up and you can't see his eyes. So that's how I imagined him. And here's this is like his vibe. Oh, you hate me, so enemies to lovers, ? And if he was a real person, I would be seeing him in court. He would be doing jail time. He's a character that really, really makes me think, the only right that men should have is the right to remain silent. Because I always want him to shut the fuck up. So next, this is a little complicated. I know, this is complicated, okay? This is the timeline. This is the story. Okay, we're gonna go one by one. I'll guide you through. So at the beginning of the book, we meet Adeline, who goes by Addie, who moves into her dead grandma's house. She calls her grandma Nana, I don't know. I guess we'll say Nana. And we learn immediately that she fucking hates her mom, so she has pretty bad mommy issues for no other reason than her mom and her grandma didn't get along, but Addie and her grandma got along, so she was like, wow, if my grandma doesn't like you, then you must be a bitch. And I'll admit, like, her mom is a little abrasive and kind of a bitch sometimes, but I don't know. That was kind of like, it was a little shallow in terms of her mommy issues. Addie and her friend Daya go to a club because, sorry. So, we are also introduced to Daya, who's Addie's friend, and she's like, I'm gonna get you laid, so I'm gonna call over this guy named Grayson, and I'm gonna get you laid. He's gonna come over and you're gonna fuck him. And Addie's like, okay, I guess. I didn't ask for that, but that's fine. So essentially, Grayson, who can't fuck, punches a hole in Addie's wall after she tells him to leave because A, he can't fuck, and B, there's a spooky knock on the door that scares him to the point where she's like, God, I don't want to fuck you anymore, even if you were already bad. So he gets so mad that he, like, punches a hole in her wall, and Addie finds this journal from her great-great-grandma, whose name is Gigi. And then we finally meet Zade. So we're over here. Then we meet Zade, who is the stalker, the shadow, who is a vigilante, takes down the government, or takes down government corruption, and goes by Z. Again, we've already covered this in quotations, parentheses, I can't even think right now. Yes, like that. Okay, so now Addie and Daya are like, let's go to a club, especially Daya. She's like, I'm sorry that Grayson, like, totally, you didn't fuck Grayson. Let's go find another guy. Let's go get you, like, feeling hot, I guess. So they get ready, they go to a club, and Addie meets a man named Arch, and they go back to her house, and they start fucking, okay? And then it happens again. There's a knock at the door, and Arch, who's, like, a big man, he's like, oh, don't worry, you stay here, baby. I'll go check it out. And he, like, opens the door. He's like, who's there? And then he starts walking. He's like, who's there? Come out. I'll beat your ass. And then he is gone for, like, several minutes, and he doesn't come back. And she's like, oh, fuck. Like, whoever it is, like, they probably killed him. Oh, my God. And he never shows up, so she calls the cops. And now there's a police report of Arch going missing at Addie's house. And Addie gets a text from her stalker, Zade, that says, if, or whatever, like, this is your punishment, because he had threatened to send him Arch's hands if she let him touch him, and she did. So, yeah. So, that's what he does. A couple days later, he sends Addie a bloody box with Arch's hands in it. Romantic, I guess. And throughout this entire time, like, Zade is breaking into Addie's house and, like, leaving roses so that she knows that someone is in her house. And she's constantly like, oh my God, how is he, like, breaking in? I don't get it. Like, I'm locking the door, I'm locking my windows. It's like, girl, you haven't done anything else to, like, safeguard your house, but I guess it's okay to question why he's getting in. I think that makes sense. Maybe. Okay. So the knock is heard at the door. And now Arch's friends are, like, after Addie because Zade went full-blown crazy and killed all of Arch's family. And now his friend Max is like, my best friend, he went missing at your house. And Adeline is like, well, great, thanks. My stalker just got me into so much more trouble than I ever needed to be. And Adeline in this time is also reading that journal that she found in her grandma's wall. Why and how the fuck did it get back there? I actually do not know. But essentially she finds out that her grandma had a stalker too, but she was kind of a freak. Like, she was, like, changing in front of the window for him and, like, inviting him basically to come in, and eventually we start to find out that she falls in love with her stalker. Her stalker's name is Ronaldo? I think it's Ronaldo. We're gonna call him Ronaldo, even if it's not. Her stalker's name is Ronaldo. I think her husband's name is Robert. I'm trying to remember the names. I think her husband's name is Robert, and then her husband's friend's name is Frank. So those are, like, the big people in her grandma's subplot. Okay. There's something in my shirt and it keeps poking at me, so I'm so sorry. Okay. So on Zade's end, he is notified that a video on the dark web, on Zade's end over here, after we find out about Addie's, like, freak of a great-grandma, we find out that Zade has been notified by his, like, employee/friend Jay that a video on the dark web has surfaced of a child sacrifice. And it's, like, 4 senators actually, like, sacrificing a child, like, performing blood libel. So, yeah, it's such a wonder that the author had to put in a note that none of the conspiracies were linked to QAnon and anti-Semitism, and I read the edited version, and I'm really confused because I don't think anything changed. that's I'll come back to that point. So yeah, he's like, okay, I gotta go take down this child sex ring, but first I'm gonna break into Addie's home and taunt her and basically scare her and essay her with a gun, a loaded gun. Yep, it leads to a non-consensual scene with a gun in a groin. And here's the thing, the author has stated that yes, it was not consensual. It was in fact assault. But that doesn't change the fact that the author definitely romanticized it. Okay, we'll come back to that point. Okay, so that happens, and then some time passes, just kind of like Addie figuring out her grandma's mystery, Zade like doing his hacking and shit. And then the next big plot point is that he breaks in again and assaults her again. But by the end of this one, like, she is, like, she likes it, question mark. Like, she's getting used to it, it almost feels like, which is, like, so icky to say. But yeah, so those are, like, the two big plot points right next to each other are just non-consensual scenes kind of back to back. But, yeah. After that, Zade goes to a gentleman's club to befriend the 4 politicians that were in the child sacrifice video, namely a senator named Mark. And he, like, has to act like a creep all the time so he can get on these guys' good sides, whatever. And then more fucking happens. This time it was, like, half consensual, I guess. Like, every time that they fuck, it gets a little bit more consensual, but still at the end, like, still, if you think about it, like, there is no gray area with consent. It's either yes or no. So technically, if it's not 100%, it's still not consensual. Anyways, so then Zade is again stalking Addie while she's out getting her work done at, like, a restaurant, I guess. I don't know, a cafe or a pub or something. And he runs into Mark, and Mark's like, hey, I go to this pub all the time. Let's go get lunch. And Zade's like, oh, fuck, no, let's go this way. And Mark's like, no, we're gonna go into this pub, where, of course, Addie is. But Mark doesn't know that, and Mark doesn't know that Zade and Addie are involved with each other, I guess. I don't know. So while they are eating, Mark is, like, scoping the area, and he sees Addie, and he takes a picture of her, and Zade's like, hey, that's my girl. And he's like, oh my god, dude, I'm so sorry. And he's like, I'll delete it. He probably didn't fucking delete it. But then Mark's like, well, if that's your girl, like, let's go talk to her. And as much as Zade tries to get him away from Addie and to, like, not talk to her, it doesn't really work. Zade and Addie have to, like, actively pretend to be dating. Mark is like, oh, you guys should come to this charity gala at my house. I have to go do work. And that was it. And so they're like, well, fuck, now we gotta go to the charity gala. So they do. On the night of the charity gala, before they even leave, there's even more fucking. Then they leave. They go to the gala or event. I don't even know if it's gala, but everyone's wearing floor-length dresses, I guess. So a gala. They go to this charity event at Mark's house. Addie meets a bunch of people from, quote-unquote, the society, which is what Mark and all these, like, corrupt politicians and celebrities are a part of. And she meets Mark's wife named Claire, who is notably, like, being abused. But then they slip away, and then they, like, fuck some more, so. But this time, it's in a movie theater. An in-home movie theater, so. Just fucking. Yeah. After this, like, Addie and Daya go to a fair. I don't know. It's like like a fair with a bunch of haunted houses. Like, it's called Satan's Affair, and it's like a traveling haunted house thing. I would call it a fair. We're gonna say a fair. And of course they run into Mark and the 4 other senators and their wives, and Mark is, like, being super creepy, and he's like, oh, where's Zade? And Addie thinks on her feet, and she's like, he's in the bathroom, because duh, even if he wasn't invited, he's definitely there, like, watching her. And then they go into the haunted house, and Mark and his little friends try to kidnap Addie and Daya. But then, of course, Zade is, like, in the shadows following them and hears them, and he catches them. And there's, like, this girl there who works at the carnival or the fair, and she's dressed as, like, a doll, and I guess she's, like, a killer on her own. Like, she just, like, commits murders with this traveling circus fair carnival. And so, like, he teams up with her. Her name's Sibby, and she, like, holds him hostage before he goes and fucks Addie again, but this time in a mirror house. And then they part ways, and then he goes and kills all of them. With Sibby, who the author makes it very known that she loves killing people. But then Sibby takes the fault, so she goes to jail. And then this is where it gets super weird for me, where I was like, why the fuck now? But for some fucking reason, Addie, you know, it's like a week later, Addie sees the news where it's like 4 senators found dead, blah, blah, blah. This girl killed them. And Addie's like, I know, like, Zade had a hand in this because he's been trying to kill them for a long time. But, like, now she's, like, scared of him now that he's, like, killed those senators, even though she knows that he like, kills people all the time. Like, it's, like, it's his job, essentially. It's not his job, but, like, he works at, like, a job. But for some fucking reason, she's like, oh my god, I'm so scared of him. Like, what if he kills me? You didn't think about that this entire time? No? Okay. I'm glad that right now is your wake-up call. But it's not really a wake-up call, because, of course, Zade fucking shows up, and they, like, run into the woods, and then she's like, how do I know you're gonna kill me? And he's like, I would never kill you. I love you. I'm obsessed with you. And then they fuck in the woods, and then in her car, in, like, the most random position ever that I still don't understand, where she's, like, bent over the glove compartment, but then he, like, straps her in with a seatbelt, and he's, like, behind her. And I still don't understand that one, but somehow that happens, and it just felt so out of place. It didn't really make sense. So Addie and Daya the entire time are still trying to figure out who the fuck killed her great-grandma, Gigi, when randomly, conveniently, I should say, Addie receives an envelope. I spelled envelope wrong, don't look at that. Receives an envelope with pictures of her great-grandma and her husband and the family friend, Frank. Frank is wearing a watch, and then randomly Addie's like, oh my gosh, I need to go up to the attic, because there was one time where my great-grandma, her ghost, led me up there. I'm like, so now you can see ghosts? Question mark? But only that one time. That's it. That's the only paranormal aspect. All right, I got it. And then randomly she has, like, the idea to, like, get this, or dig into this hole that she made earlier in the book where she found, like, a letter, and the letter was essentially like, it was like her grandma, and she's like, if anyone finds this, know that so-and-so killed me. But before she could say who, it, like, cuts off, and then somehow it ended up in the wall. We're not going to talk about how it gets in the wall, but it does. And she, like, reaches in there, and randomly, of course, even though she didn't find it earlier in the book, even though she punched a hole in it, like, 30 chapters ago, she finds a bag with a watch, the watch that Frank was wearing in the picture. It has a bunch of blood on it, and Daya, who is also a hacker, and kind of, like, works for Zade, I forgot to mention that part, works for Zade, but has never met Zade, obviously, because he's, like, anonymous, is like, oh, I can totally go get this tested and make sure it's this person's blood. I'm like, how do you have access to that? Girl, you're a hacker, you're not, like, an FBI agent, you know? Like, I don't know. It's a lot of convenience. So Zade continues to go to these, like, gentleman clubs to figure out what the fuck is going on with these child sacrifices. He finally finds out where they're happening through another leaked video, and he goes to this, I don't even remember what the fuck it's called. I think it's like I don't remember what it's called. It starts with an S. But he meets this guy named Dan, who's like, oh, you're deranged too? You should come to my dinner party on Friday. And then he goes, and there's just a 6-year-old girl that they're gonna sacrifice on the dinner table right there and just eat her fucking medium rare, I guess. But somehow, some way, Zade figures it all out. We never really learn the inner workings of how he does it. It just kind of happens, and he's like, I set all this up with my button. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, we didn't need to know, like, how you actually pulled this off. I'm just supposed to believe you. So somehow he, like, presses a button, and all of his fake FBI agents, employees, like, arrest him so that he's not suspected. And Dan, who they were able to book on, like, a previous, like, drug charge or something. I don't know. So yeah, he saves this girl, and then he goes back to Addie's house, and there's more fucking. And then the morning after, Daya just, like, shows up and sees Zade and Addie, like, getting cozy on her, like, balcony. And she's like, dude, what the heck? Like, why didn't you tell me? And then Zade's like, oh, hi, it's nice to meet my employee. And Daya's like, what the actual fuck? But then she's, like, okay with it because he's hot. But then she comes with news that, of course, the blood on the watch was her great-grandma's. I meant to say that. I didn't mean that it was Frank's. I meant it was her great-grandma's. This is, like, now we're in, like, literally the last chapter of the book. Zade returns to the society place for the sacrifice that he was invited to, but then he attempts to save the girl by, like, stabbing people, and then the place blows up. It was a trap. Okay? It was a trap. And then on Addie's side, we find out that her grandma helped cover up her great-grandma's murder through her mom, when we find out her mom knew this entire time, and that's why her grandma and her didn't get along. But it doesn't, like, confirm why her mom is an absolute bitch, but whatever, I guess. And then she gets a text from Daya where she's like, hi, I need your help. Please help. Come over right now. And so Addie, who doesn't even think twice about, like, oh, maybe this is a trap because there's people coming after me. You know, now that I've learned that Max and his friends, Arch's friends, are coming after me. The society wants me because that guy took a picture of me. I'm just gonna leave. You know, it's fine. I'll be fine. So she drives, and then she gets into an accident with a van and gets kidnapped because, duh, bitch, it was a trap. So at the end of the book, both of our main characters have been trapped by the society, who I think is supposed to be like the Illuminati or whatever. Okay, so that's kind of what happens in the book. That's essentially the plot. So if you haven't gathered already, this book was pretty controversial. Why, you might ask? Because of, accidental or not, themes of anti-Semitism and potential use of QAnon conspiracies. Of course! Duh! What else did you think it was for? Fun fact, this book was actually banned off of Amazon because of its trigger warning page. If that lets you know that, yes, you do need to read triggers before you go into books. Before we get into the controversy, I think we need to give ourselves some context, especially what QAnon is and also anti-Semitism is, if you happen to live under a fucking rock. So this is for you. It's education time. Now this is where we get into, like, the actual PowerPoint of the book report. So first off, what is anti-Semitism? It is just hostility to or prejudice against Jewish people. And then further, what is QAnon? It is an American political conspiracy theory or political movement. It originated in the American far-right political sphere in 2017. QAnon centers on fabricated, keep that in mind, claims made by an anonymous individual or individuals we don't know, known as Q. Those claims have been relayed and developed by online communities and influencers. Their core belief is that a cabal of satanic, cannibalistic child molesters are operating a global child sex trafficking ring in which are conspiring against Donald Trump. And there's my source, Wikipedia. Yeah. So that is QAnon and anti-Semitism. Again, the author in the important note did state that all of these conspiracies are not in the book. All the conspiracies and like stuff with the government and stuff and the child sacrifice are not linked to anti-Semitism and QAnon. They're all from, in her own words, her own deranged imagination. So, Haunting Adeline, and this book was self-published, so this might be incorrect, but the publishing date that is listed by Google is July 12th, 2021. Okay? So I want you to keep that in mind as we continue going on. This was published in 2021. Okay? Oops. So first off, we're going to cover the anti-Semitism that is present in Haunting Adeline. So as stated before, the antagonists of the story, the government officials, participate in blood libel. So essentially, what is blood libel? It's it's referred to as blood libel or ritual murder libel, which is an anti-Semitic false claim that falsely accuses Jews of murdering Christian boys in order to use their blood in the performance of religious rituals. So the Jewish community has been accused of blood libel since the Middle Ages, but it is most notably utilized in both Nazi propaganda and by QAnon supporters against the Jewish community. So it is very harmful because, as you can see, it was literally used by Nazis, okay? And here's the thing, like, maybe, like, our education system is different state by state. Yes, we know that. But, like, me and the author are from the same state, so we had the same educational, like, I don't know, standards. And I knew about blood libel and anti-Semitism. And so when the author, in their apology, and they state, oh, I didn't know about QAnon and I didn't know about blood libel and how it was like anti-Semitic. Girl, how? Like, how? In 2021 or even 2020, especially 2020, after, you know, the fucking January 6th, how the fuck do you not know? I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So here's some examples of it in Haunting Adeline. So this is the first, I'm gonna make myself smaller. Okay, so this is kind of the first instance where you really see it. So here's I'll read it in order. We're starting over here. It says, I roll my neck, cracking the muscles and gearing up for something that's going to make the steak I just ate settle in my stomach like a wrecked ship in the ocean. The video starts playing and despite my instincts screaming at me not to, I turn up the volume so I can hear. It's a grainy video of a fucked up dark ritual rite. The person recording is breathing heavily, more than likely from the risk of being caught doing something extremely dangerous. 4 robed men stand over a stone slab with a squirming kid tied down to it. He doesn't appear any older than 18, though the grainy footage makes it hard to say for sure. Over and over, he's screaming to let him go, his voice breaking as he cries for help. I run a hand over my face when they plunge a curved knife into his chest, his blood spilling into divots and carved into the stone that direct his life's force into the bucket. The men each part the top of the robes, bearing their chests before dipping their fingers into the blood and painting a symbol across the flesh. I force myself to watch and endure the pain alongside the victim because even though his soul is now gone, that doesn't mean I won't do everything in my power to find justice for him. So that's kind of the first instance where we kind of see a ritualistic sacrifice. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. A ritualistic sacrifice. Oh. So that's kind of the first point where we see like a ritualistic sacrifice. Here's another one. About 6 months ago, a video leaked on the dark web of 4 men in black robes performing a ritual on a young girl. I'm not sure if it was arrogance or what, but the men kept their hoods down, unfazed by the onlookers seeing exactly who they were. And then over here it says, wait. I said, wait, God damn it. I cock a brow at him, urging him to continue. We perform rituals on them. And he says, why? He tightens his lips, a pained expression on his red face. That's how we're sworn into the secret society. We must perform a ritual and mark ourselves as children of the eternal rebirth. They are cosmic entities and rule and true authority over this world. So I will admit, obviously the author isn't being like, all of these people are Jews. You know, like, obviously, but I think, and the way that I see people who like this book or fans of this book defend this part is by saying, well, no, they're satanic. Like, they're Satanists. Like, they're doing satanic rituals. And the thing is that the thing with blood libel is that Jewish people, by the church, the Christian church, because that's who started this, deemed Jewish practices as Satan worship. Like, they were not worshiping their God. That's the whole point of, like, the difference between, you know, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity is that they're all Abrahamic religions, but they all worship different gods. So, Christians, sorry, I'm gonna get a little political here. They went out of their way to claim that they're doing this against Christian boys to gain ahead, or like, for example, with Nazi propaganda, it was more so of like, these people are a danger, they perform sacrifices, they need to be stopped, essentially putting fear of the Jewish people into the heads of citizens. And then with QAnon, there is a huge, disgustingly huge conspiracy that, like, all of the elite of the world are Jewish. Think of, like, they always say, like, the Rockefellers, like, all these really rich people are Jewish, and they got there through sacrifices, blood libel, and they do it on children. All this kind of stems from the Pizzagate conspiracy. It's very, very big, and it's kind of something that I'm very surprised that someone in 2021, or even 2022, 2023, even in 2020, could claim that they had never heard of before. So yeah, it's just crazy that this was something in a fucking book in 2021, and it's still in the book in 2023, because, again, this is the edited version, I guess. Okay. We're going to continue our tangent. So here's the big thing, because I think people can make an argument of, no, it's not blood libel, even though it's directly taken from Conspiracies of Blood Libel. Even if the author didn't know, I think when you tackle such hard things that do have, you know, are conspiracies in real everyday life and are conspiracies that ruin people's lives and families, I think it's worth it to educate yourself and to research before you put something out into the world, especially in this one where the author claimed that they didn't know what QAnon was, which I think is absolutely fucking insane, but that's her story. We have to take it at face value. But in my head, like, when I heard that, I was like, you're fucking kidding me, right? So, Q versus Z. So again, Q is the person behind QAnon. It's a real life conspiracy theory, whatever. And Z is the fictional anonymous person in Haunting Adeline. Sorry. I need water. And Z is the anonymous. Z is Zade. Okay, we remember. So here's what QAnon is. Here's what Q is. So Q is someone who has claimed to have Q level clearance of top secret government information. That's how they got Q. They go by Q to remain anonymous. They claim that government officials participate in child sex trafficking and cannibalistic sacrifice. And it is also a harmful conspiracy that has a large civilian fan base. Z, from Haunting Adeline. He's a hacker whose main cause is to take down corrupt government officials who participate in child or human trafficking and cannibalistic sacrifice. Maybe a coincidence. has access to top secret information through his hacking abilities. Well, Q isn't a hacker. He's just a guy. He's a hacker. So that's a difference, right? Has a dedicated fan base of citizens. And I forgot to put it, but they both go by one letter. Well, that's what's different, is that Q is Q and Z is Z. That's how they're different, right? Yeah, totally. So, we've gone over this time and time again, because I've kind of been on a rant over here, but, like, I just think it's absolutely fucking insane to not do your research and put something out into the world. Because here's how reading Haunting Adeline in 2023 felt like to me. It felt like a QAnon fan fiction. It felt like if you had told me that this was published this year, I would have been like, oh, that's 100% a QAnon fanfic. Like, the author went and saw Sound of Freedom and they wrote a fanfic of it. That's what it feels like to read this. We're going to get into my review. So, what did I like about the book? There was some good humor. Like, there were some parts where, like, Addie or maybe once Zade made me giggle a little bit. Like, there was something funny where I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. Like, I think if the author didn't have some parts of, like, actually okay or good humor, like, I really wouldn't have been able to get through this book. It was a fast read for me. Again, well, I can't say that for certain, but I read it pretty fast. I started it on Saturday, like this past Saturday, and I finished it by Sunday. I mean, granted, I was sick on the couch all weekend, so it wasn't like I was really doing anything else, but I mean, I finished it in under 2 days. One thing I do like, too, is that the author is upfront about the triggers at the beginning of the book. And I know there are some people out there, like, when it comes to trigger warnings in books, they're like, well, it's a spoiler. No, it's not. Like, if reading a trigger warning page ruins the entire book for you, I think you need to, like, think about other people for a little bit and, like, what their experiences are and, like, maybe be a little empathetic. And I will say, like, plot-wise, there was really nothing going on. It was, like, again, like I said, like, 60 to 70% fucking and then, like, a subplot or two, but the ending did capture my attention. Okay? Like, I got a little interested towards the end where, like, stuff really started to pick up. And then it ended. So, you know, I liked that part. Okay. So, that's the things that I liked about the book. This is what I don't like about the book. Okay? Like I said, the plot doesn't feel very well researched. I think the fault of what we had just gone over, like the QAnon and the anti-Semitism, is all at the fault of the author and not doing the research. I keep seeing people blame readers who didn't like the book on that part, where it's like, well, you're making things because you don't like the book, because you don't understand dark romance. You're fucking stupid if you say that. Like, it is all on the fault of the author to not if they don't research things, especially things where it's like, oh, I'm going to be going into, like, cannibalistic sacrifice by government officials. I feel like it's been a known thing for a long time that, like, people think that happened, you know? Whatever, we went over that already. The writing style was not my favorite. There were times in the book where the way that she describes stuff would just piss me off. Like, again, cinnamon hair, where I just kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, you can describe it as cinnamon. Like, she has cinnamon hair at the beginning of the book, but then, like, after that, maybe just say, like, brown. There's nothing wrong with the word brown. You can say it when you're talking about hair. Like, it's fine. It doesn't have to be, like, caramel or honey or cinnamon. You can just say brown. Or there's, like, a part, like, the mirrors, like what I described earlier, where, like, they're at Satan's fair and they go into the mirror maze and they start fucking. the beginning of that chapter when Addie walks into the mirror maze and she's like, I'm walking into it, literally, okay, so maybe not word for word, but this is what it felt like. Okay, it's like a 3-sentence paragraph. Each sentence has the word mirror in it. It was like, I'm walking into this mirror maze. It's a maze full of mirrors. Everywhere you look, you see yourself in a mirror. And I was like, girl, we get it. There's a mirror. There's a lot of mirrors. You can see yourself everywhere in the mirrors. We know what a mirror maze is. The writing style wasn't really my favorite, as you can tell. And I think that if the writing was better, I think I would have liked the plot more. Or like the whole shtick of it, which is like stalker romance. I think I would have liked it a lot better if it was written better. If it was just written better, like not even from a technical point, but just like not written like that, I would have liked it better. You know, like if it didn't feel like I was reading like the inner monologue of a 16-year-old, or a really horny 16-year-old who just learned what the word pussy was. I think I would have liked it better. This was something big, and this is a huge, this is me being a little controversial, okay? There was a trigger warning for There was a trigger warning for not consensual, non-con. But here's the thing. The scene, the gun scene, when it happens, was not consensual. The author stated that it was not consensual, but she claims that she didn't romanticize it. And girl, I don't think you can say that when there are people in your fan base that like love that scene and are like, wow, I want that to happen to me. Like, at that point, I don't think you can say that it's not romanticized, because a majority of your fan base would not be in love with that book, be in love with that scene if it wasn't romanticized. Because it was. Objectively, it was. It was seen as, like, sexy and hot. And I don't think there's anything sexy or hot about a non-consensual scene. And I started the second book, and she can write, like, a disgustingly non-consensual scene well, but she didn't in this instance. And I think that that is very harmful, because... So the thing is that people, what their argument is that they're like, well, you're reading a dark romance, and you know what you're getting into. Of course I know what I'm getting into. I read the non-consensual trigger warning. But it didn't say, oh, this is non-consensual, but, like, the girlies are going to love it. So when everyone talks about this assault, people are going to be like, I want this to happen to me. I'm fine. You know, I'm someone who has gone through assault myself. And I'm fine with reading books that have scenes in it when given the proper trigger warning. Like, okay, so to put it in perspective, because people are like, you're just too vanilla. I love disturbing media. I love it. I love disturbing books, movies, shows. And when I mean disturbing, I mean like things that are taboo, things that are body horror, things that are gore, things that are actually fucked up. If you know who this is, but for the longest time, I would get my movie recommendations from a channel called Spooky Rice, where he covers the most disturbing niche films. And I was fine watching those because I knew what I was getting into, and because the creator of those not the creator of the videos, but usually like the directors or as he also covers like comic books or just books in general. The authors, the creators, the directors of those types of media do it with enough research and with enough care for their audience to not make it something desirable for them. Because there's nothing desirable about actually being taken advantage of. There's nothing. I understand that people have a kink for it, but as I said here, a kink is only a kink if both parties have given explicit consent. Otherwise, that's assault, girly pop. And that's the thing, is that people, I think, are mixing up what the outrage for that scene is. It's not, oh, we didn't know what we were getting into. It's like, no, we did know what we were getting into. With the context of the book, of it being a non-consensual scene, I didn't think that it was going to be so romanticized to the point where I see comments all the time of people being like, I think that scene is hot. Where it's like, oh, so like a girl gets assaulted and you think, wow, this gets my rocks off. You know? So I think it's up to the author to really take a look at their audience and say, like, hey, like, I would have felt better about it if she had actually apologized fully for it, because she didn't. She said, yes, it was non-consensual, but I didn't romanticize it. I think if she would have taken accountability and seen it for what it was, I would have felt a lot better about the scene. And the thing is that I know, even through explaining my point in a lot longer than I meant to, people are still going to be like, you just don't get it. Like, that's why we read dark romance. Like, because we want taboo fantasies and blah, blah, blah. Like, you just don't get it. We're not romanticizing it. Like, you should have known what you're reading, blah, 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 blah. Like, shut up. Shut up. Okay? Just shut the fuck up. Shut up. A dark romance can still be dark with consent and a plot that doesn't harm actual communities of people. Not every book is perfect. And I think, because I've gotten so much, like, through looking at, like, researching this book and just trying to figure out what the community around the book was before I put a review out, I've gotten so many recommendations from TikTok of these angry fans of this book where they're just constantly like, you just don't understand dark romance. I think it's great that you like this book, but I'm allowed to critique it, and I'm allowed to say what I want about it, because if you put something out in the world, be ready for someone to say something about it. Just like if I put this out in the world, this video, people can say whatever they want about my video or whatever my points were. But I'm not going to say, oh, you just don't understand my video. I'm going to say, okay, that's great. Like, you have a different opinion than me. So if you're one of those people that's going to be like, you just don't understand dark romance, shut up. Please shut up. Please. Please. Just do yourself a favor and shut up. Thank you. Okay. Angry part over. Next. What would I do differently? So I think this would have actually worked, okay, if I was like the editor, okay, I'm editing. I would have made Addie actually clinically insane. Okay? Because here's the thing. I think we could have gotten some very interesting things about her character just through things she does. Because in the book, it's like very sparsely mentioned that she's a fantasy author. I would have made her a horror author. She writes scary, fucked up books, okay? Because she has this fear kink, and she writes the fucked up books, and she loves horror because she does. Like, she loves horror movies, so I'm like, why wouldn't she be an author for horror books? But whatever. And then I would also want her to be, like, voyeuristic, you know? Because in the book, there's, like, kind of like her grandma. Like, I feel like the way that her great-grandma was is how I would make Addie. Where she's, like, voyeuristic. She sees a man outside, and she's like, hey, like, actually, I kind of fucking like this. And so, like, yeah, maybe we wouldn't have gotten a non-consensual scene, but did we fucking need one? No. Like, I think it would have been kind of, like, a little racy if she was a little crazy. Like, she loved the idea of having like a random stranger in her fucking house and she would like unlock a door every once in a while. But I guess, I don't know if people get off on like the part that she's scared of. And then you could make it where like, okay, so she has this like voyeuristic side to her, like this really dangerous, like she has no impulse control and stuff like that. And you could still make it like that, where you can still make the whole like Zade's actually a good guy. Like you could still do that through her learning more about him, you know? Like it doesn't have to be like extremes, you know? I don't know. That's what I would have done differently. Second, I would have not made Zade like that. And by that, I mean like absolute fucking cringe. Because he seems like someone that I would find on a 4chan board. And I don't like that. Because here's the thing, is that he's a walking contradiction in the terms of like, not even just like the surface level contradictions of, oh, I save women and children from sex trafficking, but I'm going to force a woman into a relationship with me. Why? Because why the fuck not? I have no tendencies of stalking prior for romantic reasons, question mark. So his character just feels, he's just a flawed character in terms of not like flawed, like a morally gray character. He's like actually like his character work is flawed. Like he just doesn't really make sense as a person. I feel like he's like somewhere between I love women and I respect them, but also I'm kind of an incel in a way. Like, I don't know, like he gives me incel vibes even though he's not. And it's weird. Like I shouldn't have that like feeling of him, you know? Like, I don't know. Like, what else? I also probably wouldn't have added the QAnon plot. I think you can make him like a vigilante without making him like this anonymous person. Like you could have just, not anonymous, but like not something so close to a right-wing conspiracy. I understand that the author is like, I didn't know what QAnon was. This is if I had made it and I edited it, I would have been like, girl, this is a little bit too close to home for what's going on right now. Like, here's the thing. Okay, this is a spoiler for the next book because I'm like 30% of the way. There's like organ harvesters, people who sell organs on the black market. I think you could have done the pedophile plot line, but made him like still like kind of murderous and like crazy. If he like murdered pedophiles and sold their organs on the black market, because he's like, I'm gonna kill a pedophile, but then I'm also gonna sell their organs so that someone who can't get a organ on the organ donation thing, whatever, with our healthcare system, could get an organ. Boom, bam. But you didn't have to make it, I don't know, like you could have made it like Citizens or something. Make him a little like crazier. So I feel like when you do government stuff, it makes you too much of a vigilante and you want him to be a little crazier. So make him like kill regular people. I hope that made sense. I don't know. I also wouldn't have the blood sacrifice in it. I don't think you need that. I would have had consent. So here's my final thoughts on the book. Overall, would I recommend it? Depends. It really depends. If you are someone that likes dark romance and you read stuff like this all the time and somehow you haven't read this book, I would say, well, maybe you might like this. If you are someone that really, really loved the Kidnapped by One Direction fanfictions on Wattpad, you would love this. This is totally for you. And then if you are just someone that's looking for a regular schmegular book to review, or like for a book recommendation, I would recommend something else. So really that's it. So my rating is, I would give 2 out of 5 loaded coochie guns.
I am disgusted.
That's it. That's my book report. Please give me an A. So that is Haunting Adeline. That's my book report. Everyone clap. Thank you. Give me an A when you get to grading my report. If you like the book, if you don't like the book, I don't care. It doesn't affect me in any way. But let me know. If you like this book, let me know why. If you don't like this book, let me know why. I always like hearing other people's sides of things, because we all have different backgrounds and things that affect the way that we read and affect that we see the world. So, yeah, let me know if you've read this book, if you, what you thought. If you want to read this book, let me know when you do. I always like to hear. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was a little bit more fun than my other reviews where it's just me rambling for 2 hours. This one's still pretty long, but it felt more cohesive, at least to me. So, I hope to continue kind of doing these like book report type videos. So, thank you so much for watching and making it all the way through. If you want to see more book content from me, feel free to subscribe. If you liked this video, please like the video so that I know that this is something that people like watching. And I will have all of my other social medias linked down below. I have a book review account where I kind of try my best to post pretty pictures and reviews, quick reviews. I have a TikTok account where I just go absolutely fucking insane for no goddamn reason. And then I also have my Goodreads if you want to keep up with what I'm currently reading. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a really good day, and I hope you all are reading amazing, beautiful books that change your life in a positive way. So, thank you. Bye.